Hello students, welcome to BioBean channel. Today we are going to discuss class 9th chapter number 6, that is tissues. From the previous chapter you came to know that all the living organisms are made up of cells. So these cells are classified into mainly two types. One is called unicellular, the other is called multicellular. So unicellular organisms can perform all their body functions by a single cell. As example, we have amoeba, that is, which carry out all the basic metabolic activities like intake of food, respiratory gases, respiration or excretion by a single cell. Then coming to multicellular organisms, these are made up of millions of cells. So here each specialized function is taken up by a different group of cells. So now we come to the definition of tissue. So tissue is a group of cells that are similar in structure and similar in function, and that is called as tissue. So usually tissues are a group of cells having common origin as well as structure as well as function. Now, what is the difference between the plant tissues and animal tissues? Is there any difference? Yes, because we know that plants are stationary, but animals are motile. As plants do not move, the most of the tissues are supportive in nature and they give structural strength as well as mechanical strength. They are almost dead tissues. So most of them are dead tissues. When we come to animals, on the other hand, you can see they are moving from one place to other place for the search of food, mate or shelter. Because of that, they consume more energy and you can find more cells which are living. And another big difference is the pattern of growth. In the plants, you can see limited growth is seen at a certain region, but in animals the growth is uniform. And you can find in the plants, based on the division, we can classify the tissues into meristematic tissue, permanent tissues, that is dividing tissues and non-dividing tissues. But in animals there is uniform division of cells, so there is no such demarcation. Now we come to plant tissues. Plants have tissues which are classified under two categories. One is called meristematic tissue, the other is called permanent tissue. Meristematic tissues are those type of tissues which always divide, and permanent tissues are the tissues which have lost the capacity of cell division. Let us discuss now more about meristematic tissues. So the growth of the plants occur only in certain specific region. So this is because the dividing tissue, that's called meristematic tissue, is present at that place. So depending on the region where they are present, the meristematic tissues are classified into apical, lateral as well as intercalary meristems. So new cells produced by meristem are initially like those of meristematic tissue, but as they grow and mature, the characteristics slowly change and then they become differentiated as components of other tissues. Now we come to apical meristem. The apical meristem is present at the growing tips of the stem as well as roots, and this increases the length of the stem as well as root. Second one, the girth of the stem or root increases due to lateral meristem. Lateral meristem is present at the side, and example is cambium. Then intercalary meristem is a meristem at the base of the leaves as well as internodes. On the other side of the nodes or the twigs, they increase the stem lengthwise and the leaf also. Now we come to permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are those type of tissues which have lost the capacity of cell division. They do not divide. There are two types of permanent tissues. One is simple permanent tissue, the other is complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissues are made up of only one type of cells. Complex permanent tissues are made up of different types of cells, but whether they are made up of one type of cell or many types of cells, they have common function. So let us discuss simple permanent tissue in detail. Simple permanent tissues are made up of one type of cells. It's divided into three types. Simple permanent tissues are classified into three types. The first one is Parenchyma, second one is Sclerenchyma, third one is Sclerenchyma. Let's go with Parenchyma. Parenchyma is a type of permanent tissues, and it is unspecialized cells and have thin cell walls, and they are living cells. They are usually loosely packed so that you can see intercellular spaces present in between, and the tissue provides support as well as stores food. The parenchyma is classified into mainly two types. One is parenchyma with chlorophyll is called Sclerenchyma, and the parenchyma with air cavities is called Parenchyma. So Sclerenchyma example is the leaf, and Parenchyma, you can see the aquatic plants which have Parenchyma tissue give buoyancy to the plants and help them to float on the water surface. The parenchyma also, like in stems and roots, store nutrients as well as water. The next type of simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. So the flexibility in the plants of the leaf as well as fruits is having a stalk-like structure, which is called a leaf stalk or fruit stalk or flower stalk. That is made up of a special type of tissue called collenchyma. So it allows easy bending in various parts of the plant like leaf as well as stem without breaking. It also provides mechanical support to plants. So we can find these tissues in the leaf stalk, that is below the epidermis. So what are the characters of collenchyma tissue? The cells are living, they are elongated, irregularly thickened at the corners, and they have very little intercellular space. The third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. So you have seen the coconut husk, which is very hard outside, and that coconut husk is made up of sclerenchyma tissue. Let us study the general characters of sclerenchyma tissue. The sclerenchyma tissue is very hard, it's dead, and it has a long and narrow lumen, and the cell wall is made up of lignin, which act as a cementing material, and due to this there is no intercellular spaces present. And where do you find this sclerenchyma tissue? They are present in the stem around the vascular bundles, and they are present in the veins of the leaves and in the hard covering of the seeds as well as nuts, and these provides strength to the plant parts and protects the plant by the mechanical injury. So now we come to the epidermis. The outermost layer of the plant body is commonly called epidermis. The epidermis is made up of single layer of cells, and those which are present in the dry habitats. So here the epidermis becomes multiple, and it's present in more number, and it's very thick, and it gives protection against water loss to the plant body. So the entire surface of the plant is covered by epidermis, and this protects all the parts of the plant. Epidermal cells on the aerial parts of the plant often secrete a waxy coat, which is water resistant layer present on the outer surface. This helps in protection against loss of water as well as mechanical injury and the invasion by the parasitic fungi. So since it is protective in function, it forms continuous layer without intercellular spaces. Often the outer side walls are thicker when compared to the inner wall. So coming to the next one, the epidermal cells also contain a small pores here and there, and that's nothing but in the leaf you can find. We call them as stomata. as you already studied in your lower classes. Stomata is made up of two types of cells. The outer surrounding cells are called epidermal cells, and the two cells which are bean shaped are called as guard cells. Often they open and they close, and they help in exchange of gases as well as transpiration. And this transpiration is nothing but loss of water in the form of water vapor through stomata. Now coming to the epidermal cells of the roots, they help in water absorption, and they have hair-like structures which increase the total absorptive surface area. And in some plants, when you take desert plants, the epidermis is having a thick waxy coat made up of cuticle. It's called as cutin, and that's also a chemical substance which is present on the leaf, which is acting as a waterproof, and it will not allow the loss of water. As there is very high temperature, there is chance of losing water more. So this cutin protects the leaf of the desert plants. So now as the plants grow older and older, you can see the changes in the stem. The stem increases its size. This is because of the meristematic tissue called cambium. We commonly call it as secondary growth. A strip of secondary growth of meristem replaces the epidermis of the stem, and cells on the outside are cut off, and they form a several layer that we call it as bark, and it's also called as cork. So cells of the cork are dead, and they are compactly arranged without intercellular spaces. They also have a chemical called suberin. The cell wall is made up of suberin, and this makes them impervious to the gases as well as water, that it will not allow the water to come inside through the stem, or gases are not allowed. So it forms a protective barrier, and suberin thus protects the plant during their secondary growth. Now we come to complex permanent tissue. So we discussed about simple permanent tissues which are made up of only one type of cells, and complex permanent tissues are those which are made up of many different types of cells, but yet they perform a common function. And where do you find these complex permanent tissues? These are found in the form of vascular bundles in the stem as well as the root and leaf. Vascular bundles consist of mainly xylem and phloem. So complex permanent tissues are classified into xylem and phloem. So both act as conducting tissues. Xylem is called water conducting tissue, phloem is called food conducting tissue, and these makes the plants to survive in the terrestrial environment. Let us study now what is xylem in detail. So xylem is water conducting tissue. It's made up of four types of cells: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. All the cells, that is tracheids, vessels, and xylem fibers, are dead cells, and xylem parenchyma is the only living cell. So tracheids and vessels are tube-like structures arranged one above the other vertically, and they help in transport of minerals as well as water vertically through the plant body. The parenchyma, which is xylem parenchyma, stores food and helps in sideways conduction of water. Then fibers are mainly supportive in function. The next one is phloem. Phloem is made up of four types of cells: sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, phloem parenchyma. Sieve tubes, companion cells, and phloem parenchyma are living, and the phloem fibers are dead. Sieve tubes are tubular cells with perforated walls, and the phloem, unlike xylem, so can move the food materials in both directions, where xylem is flowing the water from the roots to the upper part of the plant body in one way direction, but phloem conduct the food material in both directions, that is forward and backward. The phloem transports the food from leaves to all other parts of the plant body. So this is all about phloem and xylem. So this is the plant tissues in part 1 discussion. Until now, if you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and get updated videos of your class. So please don't forget to watch other videos of our channel. Thank you. If you have any doubts, please post in the comment box and get the answer.